welcome to the Esport Research Report, presented by myself, Dr. Brian McCauley, here at Jönköping University in Sweden, and produced by Nicholas Hendelkens, Communications Lead for the Esports Research Network. Today, I'm talking to Enrique Triana, who just graduated from Maryland University, Missouri. He's a former professional Overwatch player, and he's here to talk about leveraging his experience in esports to enter the world of research. So, Enrique, welcome to the podcast, and please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So I was a professional Overwatch player for a little bit under a decade, so pretty much the entire life of Overwatch. It came out back in 2016, and I just turned 13 at the time, and I played the game as soon as it came out. And after a year or two, I got to Grandmaster, and I got very high on the leaderboards, and I started playing on amateur teams and worked my way up to tier two, and then eventually tier one, where I played on the Houston Outlaws. And then after that, I went to Maryville University, where I got a scholarship to play on their esports team, and I continued playing in collegiate there. And since then, I've retired since about last summer because we ended our Overwatch program, and I have since graduated. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
I mean, just you got a scholarship to play Overwatch has just made every European listener jealous of their own experiences. Is that a common thing in America that the esports players get scholarships if they're good enough?
If you're good enough, yes. So Maryville was founded in 2015, so it was one of the first esports programs, and there have since been a lot more esports programs in the United States. They're kind of popping up, but the amount of resources they give you, that's very rare. The top I would say like 4 or 5 programs hand out full ride scholarships like Maryville do, but there are a lot that hand out just maybe like a $2,000 stipend or scholarship or something like that. But the full ride ones are very competitive. They attract pro players such as myself. Everyone at Maryville has played at a very high level, like at the very least tier two, and a lot of them, especially in League of Legends recently, move up to tier two or tier one teams while being at Maryville. So not only do you get that opportunity from being a pro, but you also can become a pro being at Maryville.
So it's like the NBA draft where you get a scholarship, or the football or the basketball where you do college for 3 years and then you get signed by one of the top teams.
Yeah, for a lot of people, yeah.
That's fantastic. Was your team successful while you were there? Did you win many championships?
I would say we had very high expectations. So there's kind of like an ebb and flow as far as what teams are good in collegiate. It's not incredibly competitive for Overwatch, as I said, because the top teams are the ones collecting all the pro players, basically. So you'd have this very large gap at the top of like, maybe the top 3 or 4 teams having all these pro or semi-pro or retired pro players. And then under that, it wasn't really competitive at all. So we were consistently at the top three, top four, but I would say that we underperformed a lot whenever I was on the team because we weren't winning tournaments. I know we lost to Illinois State many, many times, which I am not a fan of. But Illinois State had players that were part of this team called Nightmare in Pro Overwatch that actually beat one of the best Korean teams at the time in their like in Overwatch's OWCS, like an international tournament. So can't be too upset about that one.
Okay, I've seen something similar happen here in Sweden where our local team Justice went up to Stockholm and I went with them, and there was 4 teams left for this Valorant challenge. And what they told me afterwards was there was one team of pros, and what they were hoping for was to draw one of the other teams in the semifinals, so at least they make the final and then have that 1 in 100 chance. But it sounds like America's got a similar thing where you've got a few teams that are just stock full of real talent, and everyone else can't keep up with them. So, as an Overwatch player, like which agent was your main, and did that sort of stay consistent while you were there?
Yeah, so before I had any intention of going pro, I was a Lucio player, which is he falls into the main support role. I just liked the character, and honestly, at the time, I had a very bad computer setup, so I didn't feel like I could play a damage role where you had to aim very well. But yeah, definitely Lucio or main support.
Imagine being so good that you could take your computer setup into account and still be successful. So, I mean, it must have been pretty intense, like your experiences as being a professional Overwatch player and on a scholarship and in this university environment. And was that like a baptism of fire and sort of learning about esports and competitive environments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it contributed to why I went into the major that I went into. Um, Yeah, I think I drifted a lot more towards caring about academics the older I got and the less or the more I started thinking about going into the real world and having a career, especially in my major of psychology, because I knew that I didn't want to go into a traditional psychology career. So I started thinking about research, and I thought, well, hey, why don't I apply this to esports?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's there's a big thing that if you organize a clan in World of Warcraft, and if it's big enough, you're essentially a CEO, and you learn all the skills for managing an organization. And in esports, I mean, it's so intense. There's so much strategy. My own paper on Valorant was about this, that you could use esports to train professional teams, because there's a lot of links from one to the other. So playing Overwatch made you choose psychology as your major. I mean, so were you always in your psychology classes with a kind of little bit of an esport lens on your head when you were understanding concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. Mostly in terms of when you're thinking about performance psychology, I found a lot of similarities when we consider athletic performance and the struggle that athletes face because the way that esports is set up is very similar. And also in cognitive psychology, basically things surrounding attention and performance in that realm as well. I saw a lot of things that were interesting to me.
I mean, so that I mean that's the first thing, that your experiences in games and esports, you found them useful when you're doing your studies in psychology, and you've started a couple of research projects, and you've a couple of working papers that you're doing, and you want to tell us about them. So can you tell us about the first one, which I think is working title is attentional control and health behaviors within esports players.
Yeah, yeah. So, going off the whole cognitive psychology thing, there is a large body of research in esports and in just gamers that playing video games can enhance your attention. And this is shown in a few different cognitive tests, but it's usually shown in like a blanket term of just having better reaction time or better working memory. So I just wanted to replicate this finding because I have a huge population of, or not a huge population, but a rather large population of professional esports players. So I wanted to see if this ranked true compared to amateur gamers. And I also wanted to see if people's health behaviors are affected by that. So, how well somebody sleeps, how well their diet is, and how well their exercise is. I wanted to see if that affected their reaction time compared to a control group.
So there was three hypotheses, right? The first one was esport players demonstrate superior attentional control compared to, or competitive players to, rather, to amateur players, to
Mhm.
amateur gamers. So what was the result of that hypothesis then? Do they have superior attentional control?
They do, but not directly. The main finding I found that was actually significant was when you account for daily gaming hours. So the more that you play during the day, that significantly predicts, or it's significantly correlated with your reaction time on both of the cognitive tests that I used. And that was significant in the whole group. But then when I split it up between the pro esports players and the amateur gamers, it seems like that significance was only seen in the pro esports players, or they were actually like they were carrying that significance because when you look at the amateur players, that significance is not there anymore.
So the longer you play, they could maintain their attention longer and maintain their performance a lot longer.
Yes, if you were a professional esports player, it seems. Yes.
I do know that one more game, that was a good game. It's getting a bit late. I should continue going. I've won two games, and suddenly you go, oh my God, I shouldn't have started this game. I'm exhausted. So the second hypothesis about their health behaviors correlated with attention. How did their health behaviors correlate with performance?
Unfortunately, I did not find anything with that. I did have to use surveys with all my tests because, I mean, my school is not a research school, so I didn't really have any, technology or anything like that. So I just had them do surveys. I did find significance with the diet survey that I used, and that was also correlated when you took into the account the daily gaming hours. So that was associated with having a lower reaction time as well. The it's called the REAPS on the post you're looking at. But that was only significant when you accounted for daily gaming hours, once again.
The last hypothesis was on flow state, which is Csikszentmihalyi, who passed away a couple of years ago, 1971. I had in my own PhD that construct. I learned to pronounce his name. What about the flow state when associated with health habits?
Yeah, so it's kind of a similar thing with the attentional performance. Like there's not direct research looking at the flow state in esports or with health behaviors, but if you logically think about it, it is very much correlated because a lot of the facilitators of flow state are kind of being in like a healthy mind body kind of state, and it's also facilitated by having higher attentional control, and it's seen a lot in expert sports players, expert piano players, musicians. So I thought the same thing would apply to gamers, so I did also try to test that. And how I tested that was our League of Legends team played in their collegiate grand finals match, and right after the match, I just had them all fill out this flow state scale survey. But I didn't find anything with that because I just had 6 people do it, so it was hard to find any statistical significance with that.
Okay, so based on this, so what sort of, if you're going to want to be a competitive esports player, right? What sort of
Mhm.
lifestyle do you need to have if you want to stay at the top of your game? Pardon the pun.
So that's pretty controversial. I can speak from experience that it is quite expected to just play pretty much all day outside of formal scrimmages. Like you, in most of the teams that I've been on, it's been expected to play hours and hours and hours of ranked, especially when I was at the top. That was very much seen as expected. But I think those things can kind of have diminishing returns, in my opinion. I don't think that that kind of culture should be thought about everybody because I mean you can only do something for so long. Video games are unique in the sense that if you're a typical athlete, if you're a basketball player, you can't play basketball for 12 hours a day. Like it's just impossible. You can't do it. If you're a video game player, you absolutely can play video games for 12 hours a day. But is it useful? Is it helping you or is it hurting you? I would argue that it's probably hurting you. There's a threshold that you reach. So I would say that if you're an upcoming player, you should practice a decent amount of time, like maybe 3 4 hours, whatever you think is best. But it should be intentional practice where you're actively working on things instead of just queuing up all day.
Look, I've got a 10-year-old. If he told me you want to be a professional esports player, I'm going to say, no, buddy, you're not going to go to school and spend 10 hours playing games and then get 4 hours sleep. I mean, that those are the sacrifices you have to make. I mean, do you think you played too much on your rise up towards being a competitive Overwatch player?
It's hard for me to say because whenever I was getting good at the game, I absolutely neglected everything else in my life. I just stayed in my room. I skipped school. I didn't have relationships with people. I would literally just play all day. And I mean, it technically worked for me. Like one day I just got very good at the game. So it's hard for me to say that there's like a one to one, like that is what made me good, but it's what I did and the outcome is there. So it's hard for me to it's hard for me to say, but if
I
I
know,
if I
but you
went back
offer
in
that to
time,
a 10-year-old. You offer that. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, I'll do that. That sounds great because
yeah.
a 10-year-old's ideal day is a depressed adult's life. Don't shower, play video games, eat junk food, don't sleep. It's kids are different. What about the differences in expertise between different game genres?
Yeah. So are you referring to the second thing that I brought up?
This is a question that I wrote down here
Okay.
based on your thing. Yeah, from the
Um
second. Hold on, let's
yes.
go back. Nicholas, fuck Knuckles, fuck Knuckles. I'm putting the code for we have to cut this because you
Okay.
can't leave that in. I don't know what fuck knuckles means. I said fuck knuckles sandwich to gamer doc and she said it back to me. Uh, but okay, because I have you gave me the 3 questions here. You see, and I have those after I looked at the hypothesis, right?
Uh-huh.
So you put that question down. So what were you referring to there?
So this is something else that I'm writing separately that I've come across after just looking at this study and also okay, let me back up a little bit. So there's just one
No,
that
no,
I
we can
did
go.
that,
Hold on, hold on. We can back up. We can start. Nicholas will clip it, and I'll say, okay. So let's talk about the second project. Will I do that?
yes,
The
yes,
and
yes.
then we go. So Nicholas, watch when I lower my finger. Nicholas is that save him having to listen to it. Okay, so Enrique, let's talk about your second project, right? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so last December, some researchers at UCLA have contacted Maryville University, the director of our esports program actually, and they're interested in doing a study on the players here at Maryville in a very similar fashion to what I did, but they wanted to look at their sleeping habits compared to their in-game performance and their reaction time using a test called the PVT, which is very associated with your sleep. So I've started working with them on this study, and we're still in the process of writing a grant proposal and figuring out the methodology for this study. But basically, we're going to have them wear a Aura ring, and we're going to track them for probably like a month or two, and we're going to see if that affects their in-game performance, probably in ranked games. But we're still in the very early stages of this, but it has a very similar setup to what I did in my own thing, and it's a lot more. We're kind of stepping it up a bit because it's got another university on it, and we're going to have a lot of we're actually getting a grant for this, so it's going to be a lot more put together than what I did instead of an undergraduate project.
It sounds awesome. Actually, I'm just going. My whole brain's going. Oh yeah, technology, smart rings, and measure your sleep. Like this is good science, man. This is where the era of technology. So you've got the digital context and you've got the digital capacities. I mean, I've played as diaries. I've got 2,500 hours of CS:GO and Valorant diaries collected, 650,000 words, and I think just from what I've probably written down is I'm a bit tired today. That's why I'm bad. But I was also not very good, so it's harder to tell with me. But this is going to examine competitive players, so that that provides a kind of benchmark. If you're actually really good, how much does sleep impact someone who's really good, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And what do you think? Do you actually think? Did you find that from your own experiences when you didn't sleep while you performed? Is it like, did Idaho University used to have noises outside all your apartments before you used to play them?
Yeah, so getting bad sleep for me has always been the biggest negative thing in my life. I'll prioritize sleep over anything, over eating, over going to class, over doing something important. If I don't get bad sleep, I'm just gonna go back to bed and get more sleep. It's like I'm, running on autopilot. Like everything is so much harder. So I know for me that is very, very, very important. If I get bad sleep and play a video game, I'm absolutely performing terribly.
Okay, so I think finally, what questions from your experiences and the projects you're doing do you think future research should be trying to answer? What suggestions could you make for any other researchers who are looking at this or listening to this and wondering what they should do next?
So something I was going to mention with the second project is I've been tasked with finding what method we should use as far as cognitive testing, because we want something to compare to in-game performance and a typical cognitive test like the PVT. So the PVT is it's called the psychomotor vigilance task, and that's pretty much just you're staring at a screen and you're waiting to click when it flashes, and it's just measuring your raw reaction time. But one of the researchers that I'm working with brought up the fact that they think so. Sorry, we're measuring Valorant and League of Legends players. So obviously Valorant's an FPS and League of Legends is a MOBA. So we were thinking, well, these are very different video games and they require different kinds of cognitive skills, or so we thought. So we were thinking, is there a way to differentiate these things, or should we include another cognitive test? And so when I looked at the literature trying to figure out what test would be the best, there is not a lot of comparison between the genres. It just kind of is this blanket term of esports, which I think is a very important topic to look at because FPS games are very, very different from MOBA games. You really need a completely different set of skills, and I'm sure there are a lot of similarities as well, as far as having attentional control, like being able to multitask and like bounce your attention around and look at different things and have great reaction time. I'm sure that's kind of a prerequisite, but I think there's a question to be asked as far as what genres require what kind of skills. And when I look at what cognitive tests people are using to differentiate these things, it's very much just a different test every single time. I've seen like 30 different tests to use, and there isn't really a concrete gold standard kind of thing to differentiate these genres. So those are the kind of questions that I would want to look at if I kept doing more research on esports.
Oh, absolutely, I totally agree. Here's the difference I can tell you immediately. No student has ever come up to me and said, "I'm playing Valorant, but I really don't enjoy it." Whereas League of Legends, once a year, at least one student will come up to me and ask, and I just say, just stop playing. If you're not enjoying something, please stop playing. It does seem like League of Legends players are gluttons for punishment, and they go, but I've spent so much time in the game. So I would suggest maybe the psychological profiles of League of Legends versus Valorant players could be an interesting topic based on your experience. Okay, Enrique, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. It's very interesting. Enrique's contact details are below this video or just on Spotify if you're listening. If you want to reach out, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you. Thanks, Enrique.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.